This podcast is produced by Outcomes Rocket, your healthcare exclusive digital marketing agency. Outcomes Rocket exists to help healthcare organizations like yours to maximize their impact and accelerate growth. Visit outcomesrocket.com or text us at 312-224-9945. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Beat, recorded live at Vive in Nashville, Tennessee. Super excited to have Myron Wallace on the podcast today. He is a Fractional Chief Product Officer at White Label Communications. He's a visionary technology executive with over 2 decades of experience driving innovation and growth in SaaS, telehealth, and unified communications as a service industries. And such a pleasure to have him here. Myron, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and it's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic, like when I walked in, I was like, hey, I know you. It's kind of funny.
It took us a couple minutes, but you nailed it. It was a dinner in Orlando. And so it's a small world, healthcare technology.
It's very incestuous. When you know someone, someone that knows someone that you know someone kind of thing. So
that's right. That's
right. It's
right.
very fun.
Well, pleasure to be here with you. Myron, talk to us a little bit about how the organization is helping to drive change in healthcare.
Yeah, so White Label Communication really has been historically like a unified communication provider. And what they have done is they've taken all of the 50 plus features and functions and broken them down into APIs and webhooks. So what we're starting to see is more and more applications are trying to figure out how to leverage the telephony side as another digital channel to bring in metrics and AI and other functionalities so that can get tied deeper into the ecosystem. So we're one of the only platforms out there that actually has APIs that you can actually insert into a SaaS solution and build services around it. So much of the industry competitors that we compete with, without saying the obvious names, they only have one layer of the functionality, and you have to build all this application logic. So it becomes a very heavy dev cycle intense initiative for organizations to undertake. And let's face it, telecom is like healthcare. There's so many acronyms and so many different things behind it that people take it for granted. And they're like, what is this? How do I start? Where do I start? What am I trying to accomplish? And we're really simplified that entire solution.
That's really great. And what are some of the use cases, right? And how is it being used? Can you kind of help us understand that better?
Yeah, absolutely. So like practice management. So when you think of like organizations that are like a health system practice or like a dental practice or a specialty practice like podiatry, optometry, kind of adjacent to what we're here at this conference for. But we supply them with those APIs so they insert the telephone technology into their product. That way they can go to the customer and say, you don't need to go buy 7 different things to run your business. I refer to that as what's called the SaaS sprawl. I think that as an industry, we've created all these solutions, but they're point solutions. And then it becomes, what do I need? I have a CRM solution. I have a phone system. I have a contact center solution. And it just becomes too much for the organization. So if you can cut out all the noise and come in and say, hey, we have a solution that allows you to integrate all these things into one channel and one product, it's much simpler for the customer to understand, and it increases the operations on their side 100%.
That's great. No, I really appreciate you sharing that. Where do you see omnichannel and healthcare IT intersecting with one another?
Well, I think like we're sort of in this, like I said, the SaaS sprawl. Organizations are kind of trying to figure out, what do we strip out and how do we leverage these new different channels? One of the channels I think that's going to really be big in the omni-channel space is RCS. If you're not familiar with RCS is not new. It's 18 plus years old. It wasn't until...
And what does it stand for?
Rich Communication Services.
Okay.
So there was kind of a joke that for a while, if you were on an Android phone and you were on an iPhone and you tried to text one another in a group message, it was always broken.
Yeah.
So RCS really fixes that problem. But what it really does in twofold is it's going to change the entire telehealth market, because what you can do is you can push rich experiences to the end user without having the customer leave that and go to the application via web. So you think of like carousels on LinkedIn and some of these other applications where you can scroll through them. Well, now you can deliver that in the messaging body. So now you're actually moving the interaction closer to the customer.
That's really great. Yeah, that sounds promising. To have that channel, text is just so convenient.
It is, but it's very one way when you think of it. Yeah, it's one dimensional, where this is multi-dimensional. So friction is a big thing when you're trying to educate the consumer on well, what application? Like you have to click on that link to go into the application. And then sometimes it doesn't work, right? So if we can remove the friction and make it simpler for the customer or the consumer, we're actually getting to where we need to be as an industry.
Love that. Yeah, no, that's very promising. And what would you say the future of omnichannel looks like in patient engagement?
Really, it comes back to RCS. I think like we're going to see more and more of that telehealth kind of collapse into like this rich communication experience. I think that some of the vendors that are out there, there's going to be a market compression around the solutions because Epic is kind of taken over in the market in kind of these practice and provider engagement solutions. There's still a kind of a need for the spatiality use cases that are out there, but I think we will see a severe market compression in the next couple of years.
So then is this available to anyone right now? Can anybody leverage this RCS
They can
capability?
actually not get too down in the technical weeds. AT&T recently adopted RCS.
Cool.
So now you have all the major carriers in North America have access to this channel. It's not really popped up yet. I haven't seen anyone here talking about RCS, which I was kind of surprised about, to be honest with you. I thought more and more people would be on that bandwagon to try to reduce friction.
Yeah. So like, what does it look like? Have I gotten anything or have our listeners gotten anything?
I don't think so yet. You know, I think like if you're going to start to see like things from the airline industry, I think will be the number one major industry to kind of push RCS out.
Okay.
I'm a huge Delta guy. I fly Delta a lot, and you can Apple Business Message. So that's kind of a rich experience inside of the Apple ecosystem. Well, that's going to get extended more into the RCS community now because the APIs are there. So we're excited about having those APIs into our ecosystem so customers can leverage our platform and do RCS technologies.
Super cool. Yeah. I mean, if you could get everything to a patient on their text, make it a rich experience, it's one less thing to click on.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about it is there's so many bad actors and synthetic actors because of AI that exist. And now the message actually comes branded with the health system. So it actually has the little blue check mark plus the logo of the health system. So you know that with trust that this has been verified by the network. So you can pass PHI information on RCS between the patient and the system without having to go through other portals and systems. So like e-sign consent, patient education, preoperative forms, anything that around that continuum of care that the solution is trying to solve for, it can be done.
That's pretty cool. And what would you say is the biggest problem that this solves?
It's really the friction for the patient. We're still dealing with, I think I heard a statistic that 64% of most users that are on some type of tele-engagement platform are on iPhone. The other is, I couldn't get the other breakdown between flip phone and Android, but it was something like there was still like 12% of that number was like flip phones. So you think like they're never going to receive a rich experience. But I think that the Android and iPhone community is kind of taken over. It's either which one are you more comfortable with, right? Yeah. But I think like that will help remove that friction for the patient, especially like the amount of calls that the support lines get. That's a big thing when you think about they're already burdened with patients calling in for different things. And if you have the technological burden where it's like, you sent me this, but I can't get to it, or how do I navigate this? That would help.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And so what emerging trends and tech do you think is going to impact healthcare the most?
Obviously, AI. It's the buzzword of the industry right now. It's interesting. There's no regulatory and oversight, on AI. I think that we're starting to see different use cases come out with AI. One of the things that, we have Joint Commission, obviously, governing a lot of things around the healthcare market. I wonder when they're going to step in and say that these are the governing rules for healthcare. I think that a lot of solutions out here have AI, and they say they have AI. It's crazy, like overnight in 1 year, suddenly like all these companies have some form of AI. I kind of call it the diamond and caviar moment. A lot of these solutions show up with saying, hey, we got diamonds and caviar. But the reality is they show up with a bag of charcoal and a bowl of goldfish. And no one's waiting around for charcoal to turn into diamonds. And last time I checked, goldfish aren't producing caviar. So it's kind of a ridiculous comment with some of these companies saying, hey, we got AI. I have a hard time buying it. So
yeah, no, for sure, man. A lot of hype, a lot of exaggeration.
Exactly.
What really do you have, And so, no, I love that. It's a great points there. So let's get back to RCS. How will RCS, rich communication, what was the S for again?
Rich communication services.
Services? That's what I thought. Yeah. So how will rich communication services, RCS, impact next gen care delivery?
Being able to push experiences. So imagine, like if you're on a tele engagement and you're waiting for the provider, they can show like a quick video snap of messaging while you're waiting in a waiting room, that can get actually delivered into the messaging experience. So all these different ways of providing patient education, pre-op, post-op information will actually be delivered through this medium. It will change the entire industry. I think like next year, we'll probably see a lot more things around RCS and these different platforms that are out here.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for the early look and the insight. It's always fun to be ahead of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great to actually be part of a company that actually is building these services so we can deliver these types of technologies to solution integrators.
That's fantastic. Well, look, this has been a phenomenal discussion with you, Myron. I'd love to just get a closing thought for our listeners and the best place they could reach out to you and White Label Communications.
I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. I actually have my own website, myronwallace.com as well, that kind of references back to these different things. But I also think like just keep an eye on, how RCS is coming about, the different APIs. If you're a solution trying to integrate communications into your application, would love to have a conversation and spend some solution time with you and your teams. It's very exciting times to build these initiatives and these products.
Outstanding, Myron. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, ladies and gentlemen. Myron Wallace. He is the Fractional Chief Product Officer at White Label Communications with us at Vive. On the Beat. Thank you all for tuning in. And Myron, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
This podcast is produced by Outcomes Rocket, your healthcare exclusive digital marketing agency. Outcomes Rocket exists to help healthcare organizations like yours to maximize their impact and accelerate growth. Visit outcomesrocket.com or text us at 312-224-9945.